It started here in Barbados. It was mid-December 2024, and we were in Barbados for 2 nights before we boarded the cruise that we'd been anticipating most eagerly all year, our first experience on board Explora Journeys, which is the much-hyped new luxury cruise line from the MSC Group. Our trip was a 7-night sailing of the Eastern Caribbean from Bridgetown, Barbados to Miami, making stops in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, St. Lucia, St. Kitts, Virgin Gorda in the British Virgin Islands. We were excited about the itinerary, sure, but frankly for us, this cruise was all about the ship. We were dying to see for ourselves what Explora Journeys was all about.
Our Explora Journeys adventure began a few days prior to embarkation when we flew down to Barbados for some much-needed R&R. And it couldn't have come at a better time, as the temps were dropping at home, the snow was starting to fall, and upstate New York was turning into the ice planet Hoth. Barbados was perfect. For our 2-night pre-cruise stay, we opted to stay at the Hilton Barbados Resort, which is at the south end of Carlisle Bay on Needham's Point, the southwest corner of the island. It's centrally located with a beach and multiple pools, and even a UNESCO World Heritage Site, Charles Fort, right there on site. And we loved our couple days in Barbados. We toured the entire island in a rental car, explored the amazing beaches, ate some delicious Bajan cuisine, and we'll share a separate vlog about that at some point. But today we couldn't wait to get aboard Explora II. So join us in this video as we embark on Explora Journeys' newest luxury ship and share our first impressions of the spaces, the cuisine, the service, and more, here on Calling All Ports with Andrew and Diana.
It was time to get to the port of Bridgetown. So the Hilton Resort conveniently has taxis on call, and it was a $20 flat rate to get us both up to the cruise port. We simply walked down to the lobby, the concierge hailed us a driver, and we were off in our own private van. The resort is less than 3 miles from the port. It was a short, maybe 15-minute drive that takes you straight through the heart of Bridgetown, Barbados' capital city. Once we got through the security checkpoint, it was a quick drive to the cruise terminal drop-off, where we were greeted by a porter who took our bags and walked us over to the check-in desk. It was around 1 p.m. in the afternoon, and even though there were 3 cruise ships in port that day, the terminal was not crowded at all. All the communication at the port was fantastic. Just moving from the passenger drop-off area to the check-in, we passed what must have been 3 or 4 Explora Journeys staff who helped guide us to where we needed to go. And the check-in process was a breeze. Everything was outside under a portico. We walked right up to the Explora Journeys stand. There were multiple hosts waiting to check our documents and tag our luggage. We weren't able to walk directly onto the ship. We needed to be shuttled over to the dock by bus. But there was a seating area with beverages and wet towels, and we only had to wait maybe 5 minutes before a bus was ready to transfer us over to the ship. The bus ride was 2, maybe 3 minutes. There was both a P&O and a Royal Caribbean ship in port that day, and we got to peek those ships on the drive over. It was door-to-door service. The bus dropped us right at the gangway to Explora II. No more than 2 steps off the bus, and we were headed up the gangway. They checked our boarding documents and passports one more time. And we hadn't actually been through any form of security yet, so they did it right there on the ship. It's the kind of usual routine that you go through anytime you get on and off for a regular port excursion. And security, it took all of 30 seconds.
We went up one deck to deck 4 and headed over to Journeys Lounge, which is the main theater on Explora II. This is where they were passing out the passenger cruise cards. Something different is that Explora Journeys didn't assign us an embarkation time. There was simply a check-in time of 1 until 5 p.m. We decided to show up right as that window was opening. And look, no crowds. Plenty of available staff waiting to help. No more than a minute and we had our cards, plus a welcome beverage. We'll never say no to that. Regardless of whether the line is all-inclusive or not, we wish all cruise lines would greet passengers this way. It's just a nice gesture and a small token of appreciation for your business. What do you think? Drop a comment below. Even though the check-in window had only just opened up, it turned out that our cabin was ready. Already! So we headed straight up 2 decks to deck 6 to check out our digs for the week. All the cabins on board Explora I and Explora II are what they call oceanfront suites, meaning all the cabins are suites and they all have balconies. Our cabin was the entry-level category, an ocean terrace suite, suite number 6038 to be exact, situated midship on the starboard side.
Compared to newer ships from other luxury and ultra-luxury lines, the size of this balcony suite, it's fairly typical, around 375 square feet, I believe. Regardless, it was roomy enough, and seeing as we personally never spend that much time in our cabin, the size here suited Diana and I perfectly fine. It's the luxury finishes and all the little added touches that truly make this suite stand out. From the real leather and dark woods, to the plush seating on the terrace, to the bottled water and welcome champagne and pastry treats, the flowers, the sculptures and artwork, the books on the shelves, all these things give this suite a casual elegance that, for us, really suits our personal taste better than any other luxury or ultra-luxury cruise ship cabin that we've stayed in. We'll have a full suite tour video for you soon, which is our chance to remind you to please subscribe to the Calling All Ports channel so you won't miss that suite tour video or any of our other upcoming Explora Journeys content when it drops. We really appreciate the walk-in closet with ample storage and a vanity. We really enjoy having a separate space for our clothing and essentials. And while the bathroom is not the biggest, it is nonetheless an efficiently laid out space, plus it's well appointed with marble surfaces and a spacious walk-in shower.
We'd only been on the ship a little over an hour, and we were enjoying exploring our cabin so much that we neglected to look closely at the daily program to see the lunch service times. By the time we looked, we realized we missed it, a grave mistake on our part. Lunch was only being served in the Emporium marketplace on Embarcation Day, and it closed at 2:30 p.m. Hungry and sad, we set out to explore the rest of the ship. Our suite was on Deck 6, which sits just above the main public spaces on Decks 4 and 5, including the 2-story atrium. In fact, the forward stairwell on Deck 6 has this curious little extra seating area that peers down into the atrium. It's pretty neat. Dropping down onto Deck 5, our walkabout brought us immediately onto the upper level of the atrium, and there's a Steinway self-playing piano here. We were immediately blown away by the look and feel of Explora II. We'd of course pored over the brochures and binged all the YouTube videos before coming on board, so we knew what the ship looked like. Yet, seeing it up close and in person, we were still immediately struck by Explora's delicate balance of classic and modern, of relaxed comfort and refined sophistication. Unlike other ultra-luxury ships we've sailed on, like Regent 7 Seas, Explora II didn't feel overly formal and cluttered. A lot of times, so-called luxury decor comes at a maximalist and gaudy approach. Gold accents everywhere and oversized glitzy lighting fixtures and expensive artwork stuck in every possible spot. It's opulence simply for the sake of it. But on the other hand, Explora has a more elevated minimalist vibe. Clean lines accented by natural materials like marble, glass, and warm-colored woods. Everything's very open and bright, and for what it's worth, this is more our taste.
We weren't going to stay hungry for long because our next stop was Crema Cafe. The all-day coffee shop provides small bites throughout the day, and this spot would turn into a regular pit stop for us during our voyage. We love our morning coffee and our afternoon cappuccinos. We tried out Crema's small paninis and madeleines for a makeshift late lunch. You can scope them out here at the counter, but the hosts insist on serving them to you at your seat. Terrific, attentive service. Everything tasted fantastic, though if we have one critique, it's that Explora could change up the flavors every few days. The sandwiches and pastries here were essentially exactly the same day after day. But more on that in our upcoming dining review video. Wait for it. We grabbed some coffee drinks too. After our lunchy snack, we continued to self-explore the ship. Outside Crema Cafe here on Deck 5, there's this little outdoor seating area, which unfortunately is the closest thing Explora II has to a promenade deck. It's only on the starboard side, and it only runs 1/3 of the length of this ship, and it's also a smoking area. Kind of disappointing. Back inside and heading to the aft, we stopped first at the Galerie d'Art, which, is the art gallery to look at their photography exhibit. It's a large space that only displays art. It's not selling anything, which is a welcome change from the kind of Park West galleries that are trying to always sell you art on other lines.
We ended up in the Astern Lounge, which is a bar at the rear of Deck 5 and one of Explora's main event spaces. This is a location of the pool table, which is a pretty cool feature. It's a gyroscopic, self-leveling pool table. Nobody was using it, so we decided to play a quick game of pool. Neither one of us claims to be a professional pool player. Regardless, yes, we're rusty, we know. Practice makes perfect. And we eventually got a bit better as the week went on. Across from the Astern Lounge is Sakura, the specialty Pan-Asian restaurant on board. With the one exception of Anthology, all the restaurants on Explora Journeys are included. This place is visually stunning, and walking in, immediately we got excited about eating here. The cherry blossoms and lantern fixtures made the space so vibrant and warm. And the open kitchen and the sushi bar were really inviting. We'd eventually eat both lunch and dinner here. Next, we headed over to Marble & Co., which is a ship's steakhouse venue, also here on Deck 5. It's got a fairly typical steakhouse decor, dark woods, leather, photos of farms, and stereotypical American cowboys. But did you see that dry ager? Fantastic.
We love how easy it is to navigate small and mid-sized cruise ships. Everything's so centrally located, and on Explora, you almost don't need a map. Everything is about where you would expect to find it. With the exception of the buffet, which is up on Deck 11, all the restaurants are on Decks 4 and 5 in the kind of back half of the ship. There's even this mini grand staircase that takes you from Sakura and Marble & Co. on Deck 5 down to Fil Rouge and Med Yacht Club on Deck 4. Those last two are ostensibly what you would consider the kind of main dining rooms on board. Sitting side by side on Deck 4, midship, you don't need reservations to dine at either Fil Rouge or Med Yacht Club. We poked around Fil Rouge, which is a classic French-inspired restaurant. In addition to dinner, it's open for breakfast most days. It's the one spot for a formal full-service breakfast. With its pairing of bright whites and dark grays and blacks, this is a more traditionally quote-unquote elegant space. We thumbed through the menu and started planning out our dinner. Diana was excited about the escargot, her favorite, and I was all over the veal Wellington. We were fully set to come back here for dinner later that evening, but that would soon change, as you'll see. Next, we wandered over to the adjacent Med Yacht Club, which is always open for dinner and also for lunch on sea days. Somewhat regrettably, we sat on this place for a few days without even taking a close look at the menu. Again, we'll get into the food later in a follow-up dining video. For now, we love the mid-century modern style of this room and the porthole windows and the pops of nautical blue. And true to the yacht club theme, the large ship models and the seafaring photos are just all really neat. The bar area has super comfy seating too, so we get back here later in the trip, but our advice is don't sleep on Med Yacht Club.
Moving forward on Deck 4, we came upon the various high-end shops and the lobby bar, which has this two-story bar display, which is no doubt one of Explora's most iconic design features. It's an eye-catching space, even if the seating here is a bit limited for a lobby. We were on board in mid-December, and you'll appreciate that everything was decorated for Christmas holidays. Though, we appreciate how relatively understated the holiday decor was. We wandered into the casino next. It's in the heart of the ship on Deck 4, right between the lobby and the Journeys Lounge main theater. And we like us a casino. But shockingly, this was the only time we went in there all voyage. It was simply too small to be exciting, only a couple tables and barely a dozen slot machines, and there never seemed to be anyone in there. Maybe next time. There was one more spot we had to hit before we'd seen the most major public spaces on the lower decks, and that was Anthology. It's actually up on Deck 5, opening up onto the atrium on the port side. Explora Journeys is an all-inclusive cruise line, and as we mentioned earlier, Anthology is the only extra pay restaurant on board. The cuisine is elevated Italian delivered in a chef's tasting menu style fixed course service. This is a very contemporary, stylishly minimalist space. We had a reservation booked for later in the week, and as soon as we walked into the restaurant, we knew we wanted to sit at one of those booths that has a view into the kitchen. We put in a request and we got our wish. Subscribe to the channel to make sure you don't miss our full review of Anthology. It's definitely one of the most ambitious and unique fine dining experiences at sea.
We hadn't necessarily intended to give ourselves a full ship tour, but at this point we were almost there. So we decided to keep it going and head up top to the other main public areas, which are on decks 11, 12, and 14. It was already after 4 o'clock and we knew the sun was starting to set, so we headed for the outdoor spaces first. Here we are on deck 12 forward at the Helios bar and pool area. Helios is an adults-only space on Explora, and we made a note that we definitely wanted to hit up these pools later in the trip. Though they're really only sort of soaking tubs, this turned out to probably be our favorite of the smaller pools on Explora. And for a smaller ship, there are actually quite a few pools on board Explora, as you'll see. And there's so much outdoor seating. Everywhere we looked on the top decks, we saw rows of chairs and loungers. Even with the ubiquitous chair hogs, and yeah, Explora has them too, fighting for a seat wouldn't be really an issue on this cruise. And this is some premium outdoor furniture, thick padded cushions, aesthetically beautiful. There are quite a few of these big whirlpools spread throughout the ship. By the way, you might be wondering at this point, where is everybody? After all, at this point it's nearing 5 p.m. on embarkation day. We'd been all over the ship, and yet we'd only seen maybe a handful of people in each venue that we had visited. Well, it turns out that we were going to be really spoiled on this cruise. Explora II has a max occupancy of slightly over 900 passengers, yet our sailing only had about 350 passengers on board. It was barely 1/3 full. And we still had a fully staffed crew, of course, and that's nearly 700 crew members. So Explora II's already impressive guest-to-crew ratio, which was 1.25 to 1, was actually going to be more like 1 to 2.
Back at the stern of the ship, we peered out at our P&O and Royal Caribbean neighbors and wondered, what were they thinking about our beautiful new ship? Any chance you are on board either ship? Let us know. We climbed up a small half deck in the aft of the ship where the sports courts live. There's also this open-air fitness area with rowing machines and spin bikes and the like. And the courts are set up for pickleball and basketball. We were excited to see a basketball hoop on a ship because most ships this size don't have them. Yeah, we know, we need to work on our skills. Explora has a sports coach on board, which is such a cool offering. We met Coach K when the camera was off and he was fantastic. And he worked for Chelsea Football Club, and I'm a big Blues supporter, so Coach K is excellent in my book. All the way aft on 14, there's yet another outdoor hot tub and more comfy seating around the sky bar, which is open from mid-afternoon until late.
We were hopping around at this point, but there was one deck that we still hadn't hit, and that was deck 11. At the front of the ship on deck 11, there's the observation lounge, which Explora Journeys calls, you guessed it, the Explora Lounge. As you enter on the port side, there's the cigar lounge and the malt whiskey bar. Personally, I'm a big whiskey drinker, and this space is really gorgeous and comfortable. Yet oddly, I only drank here a couple times. I guess I'll have to go back. We wandered into the Explora Lounge proper, and this is a great space. Bright and open, and so many pockets of comfortable sofas and chairs. And uh-oh, there is a puzzle. I'll just leave Diana to it. She'll be here for a while. I love this forward-facing outdoor deck with views out over the bow, and this solarium section of the Explorer Lounge is just really kind of stunning and interesting.
After I had my puzzle fix, we finished the circuit. On the starboard side entrance into the Explorer Lounge is a chef's kitchen, where the culinary instructors teach their extra pay cooking classes. And there's an attached dining room too. Midship on deck 11 is a conservatory pool. Yes, it took us a minute to figure out the automatic doors. Rather than open when you walk up, there's a touchless center that you need to wave your hand in front of. We actually like this feature, even if it took a little getting used to. Anyhow, it's a big main pool with lots of seating and greenery, and there's a retractable roof. And more of these infinity edge style whirlpools. It's a very relaxing space. Plus, there's an impressively large pool bar. And these amazing floor-to-ceiling windows. And then, the Emporium Marketplace. We didn't do it on purpose, but talk about saving the best for last. It was still an hour or so before dinner service. However, we didn't even need to see the food on display to know how amazing this space was going to be. The sheer size of it, the stunning decor, the range of culinary stations, the top-of-the-line kitchen equipment. Once we walked in, we knew this was no ordinary cruise ship buffet. We just had a sense. And being in the Emporium Marketplace during the meal prep time, it was like a foodie zen garden. I don't know how else to describe the feeling of tranquility and inner harmony this space made us feel. No joke. There's a cook-to-order grill station and carvery with rotisserie meats and a wok station and a full hot sauce menu. And if you like seafood and sushi, Emporium Marketplace really is a perfect spot for you. But more on that a little later. We're also big fans of a proper hand washing station and a buffet. We loved everything about this space. And the terrace area for alfresco dining was amazing. We immediately scoped out these diner-style booths that had a direct view out over the ship's wake, and we made a mental note that we needed to head back here to dine at some point.
We had self-explored nearly the entire ship at this point. However, the daily program had one curious activity listed that we needed to check out. They were offering guided ship tours, and the last one was coming up at 5:30. The sun was setting, but we knew we had some more free time before sailaway, so we ran down to the lobby and we met up with the very charismatic international host, Luca. There were only a few other parties joining the tour, maybe 10 of us in total. Explora was the first cruise ship that we'd ever been on where they offered a guided tour. We just thought it was a unique opportunity to learn more about the ship, and we really appreciated being shown around by an insider and learning some facts about Explora. We ended up revisiting a lot of the spots that we had self-explored earlier, though we did hit a few new locations, like the wellness center and the gym. It also gave us an opportunity to meet the various staff and entertainers on board. And experiencing Luca's upbeat, positive vibe was just a great kickoff to the cruise. If you've been on a ship that's offered a similar guided tour experience, please let us know in the comments below. We also passed through the Emporium marketplace again, and this time the food was starting to come out. Fresh oysters and grilled lobster tails. Immediately, we knew our dinner plans had changed.
It was nearing sailaway time and we were really hungry. So after Luca's guided tour, we called an audible and scrapped our plans for the Fil Rouge. Instead, we made a beeline for Emporium Marketplace. It was 6:30 and their dinner service was just beginning. That's an early dinner for the two of us, but it had been a long day and we mostly missed lunch. And Andrew had dream visions of sushi and oysters and lobster tails dancing around in his head. Knowing that we'd be sailing away soon, we snagged that diner booth on the aft deck that we had been eyeing before. And the crew here was unbelievable too. There was a team of waitstaff and only a couple other tables dining outside on the terrace, so we practically got personalized service during dinner. The crew kept constantly coming over to see what we needed, pouring wine. It was amazing. Andrew started off with a plate each of oysters and sushi, and it lived up to the hype in his head. I started off with a Buddha bowl, an Asian-inspired bowl of veggies and grains. MSC is an Italian cruise line, and so I had to try a bite of the pizza, which was excellent. I also had a plate of coq au vin. Andrew got his fresh grilled lobster tail, along with a plate of lamb and pork from the carvery.
We're not exaggerating, the food from Emporium Marketplace was unbelievable. Soon enough, we began the sail away from Bridgetown. It's too bad it was dark out and we couldn't take in more of the views, but it was a stunning night nonetheless. We felt like we'd been on the ship for hardly a few hours, yet it was already past 8 o'clock. And there was one activity on the program we knew we needed to catch. Music trivia, which was down in the Astern Lounge. Our favorite. It was a fun and competitive game. We came in second place. Being a European cruise line, the nighttime entertainment on board Explora starts late compared to many American lines, which is actually fine with us. That's more our style. We checked out the opening night show in the Journeys Lounge main stage, which didn't start until 9:45 p.m. The theme was Voices of Vegas, and it featured the full cast of 6 resident vocalists. Pretty standard luxury cruise ship fare, talented singers, but nothing groundbreaking.
We skipped out after a few songs and headed back to the Astern Lounge. Needed to up our billiards game, you know? And needed to see if that pool table could really handle the open seas. The table uses sensors to stay perfectly level even when the ship is in rough seas, or that's the idea anyway. The thing apparently cost something like $300,000. And we have to say the pool table worked pretty well. It stayed level. Other nights later on, that wouldn't always be the case, but we'll save that for a later video. As you might be able to tell, the Astern Lounge was practically empty, but the DJ still had their after dark dance party music going, so with the place to ourselves, we maybe started getting a little goofy. Eventually, we headed over to the bar for a nightcap. The Astern Lounge quickly became one of our favorite after-dinner spots for a few reasons, mainly the service and the quality cocktails. As if we had our own private bar staff. It's notable that Explora Journeys is aiming to recreate a luxury hotel experience at sea, and to that end, they hired bona fide mixologists from 5-star luxury hotels to work on their ships. These guys, Prasad, Juninho, and Louis, they were absolutely the best. And we might just have to make an entire video about the craft cocktails aboard Explora II. We'll see.
And with some movie magic, your New York sour might transform itself into a whiskey sour. Hey, when the cocktails are this delicious and the service is this good, you just can't have only one. It'd been a very long day. Most of the ship was apparently already asleep, and so with that, we were off to bed. Boarding day complete. Please stay tuned for more videos on our Explora Journeys experience. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. Thanks for watching, and until next time, we'll be seeing you.